My name's Jeremy Scott. I'm 37 years old, and I got my sight loss through diabetic retinopathy, which I got about 6.5 years ago.
And how long have you been a gardener?
Well, I took up gardening about a year after my sight went.
And just tell us about this vegetable patch that you've created. I mean, it's in a pretty large area, isn't it?
To begin with, it was literally just a tiny patch, and then in a short space of time, I became so keen on gardening, it spread really quickly, and now it is quite a large area. I produce about 500-600 pounds of potatoes on an average year, 100 pounds of tomatoes, and quite a large amount. It's enough to feed 7 or 8 of us, and also I give quite a lot away, so we do get a lot out of it.
Can you show me around?
There are 3 long rectangular shaped beds. We're coming to the first netted area, and I've used recycled water pipe here and metal rods, reinforcing rods, to make almost like a sort of polytunnel type structure, which is covered with netting. And that's got lots of broad beans under it, and we've had really good broad beans this year. The structure is to keep the deer off, otherwise they get in and start eating them, unfortunately. And
Right, so
then,
while most gardeners have had problems with capricious weather, you're having problems with deer.
yeah, we have an absolute nightmare with the deer being on the edge of the forest here. And then going past those, we've got 3 onion beds, autumn or winter onions, and spring onion sets and shallots. So I've got quite a lot there. They've more or less finished now, so I'm just drying them off on the surface. For me, it's become like a way of life. It literally has transformed my life. So I spend all my time out here, really, even in the winter, if I'm able to.
Have you had to make any adaptations to be able to garden as a visually impaired person?
For the first couple of years, I know this sounds silly, but I would forget that I'd got a sight problem. I would just carry on. I would listen to something on a TV programme, go out and try and do it exactly how they had said to do it, and without giving consideration to my sight. So if I'm planting using a string to guide me, if I'm sowing seed, rather than remove that string, I'll tend to leave it there so that I can continue to find that area throughout the year. It's little things like that. I use lots of scaffold planks that I've got hold of to sort of mark things out so I can find my way around the beds. I try and use brightly coloured things wherever possible. My gloves, I always use bright yellow gardening gloves so that I can find them. Otherwise you spend hours on the floor crawling around trying to find the thing that you've just lost. So I hope that I'm a bit more organised these days, but I was a pretty messy person before I lost my sight, and I've had to learn pretty quickly that everything's got to go in the same place at the same time. You've got to be pretty well organised.
So it sounds like this vegetable patch is very much your own kingdom. I mean, it doesn't sound like you get any help from anyone to do your gardening.
I love it out here. It's me that does all the planning and all the planting and pretty much everything. Having said that, my mum and dad have really started to enjoy the garden as well. My dad was somebody who hated gardening up until I started out here. He saw it as just something that he had to do. And now he quite often comes out here and just sits out here, or he'll dig up some potatoes, and I'm really proud in a way that it's got the rest of the family interested. Mind you, having said that, they've got to get my permission before they do anything.
And so, as a visually impaired person, how have you learned to garden with your disability in mind?
I get people to read all the gardening books, magazines. Listen to all the radio programs and the TV. So that's one way I gain. And then the Blind Gardeners Club, that's brilliant because you get some really good tips. And that really helps with my health issues because it stops me worrying about my packed up kidney or my sight or whatever's going on, and I'm more worried about why my beetroot had been eaten or and I literally go to bed worrying about that.
You've obviously been very successful so far because you're the reigning blind gardener of the year. But in terms of what's to come, what kind of plans have you got for the future of this vegetable patch?
I've actually got big plans for this winter. I've started to construct a large cold frame which is 17 foot long and 8 foot wide, which I need to keep all my seedlings in. I don't sow a lot of things directly into the soil. I start them off as small plants in trays. But the first thing that's going up is that I've got this large fence going out there, which will hopefully, fingers crossed, protect me from the deer. It's a 7 foot fence that's going around the entire plot to finally sort of give me security. And I've just been offered another second-hand greenhouse, so I've got a lot this winter that I want to get done. I'm going to have to try and cram it all in. In this spring I bought 12 apple trees and some cherry trees and plum trees, and I've got those in a temporary bed at the moment, and I'm planning to plant all of those out in my fruit cage area so that I've got a proper orchard. Talking about it, I don't know how I'm going to fit it all in, but somehow I'm going to determine that I'm going to get it all done by the spring.